Hey guys, I'm here. Even after the weekend, even after everything, I am still thinking about Zack Snyder's Justice League and just everything that we're hearing that DC's been announcing since then. Honestly, trying to drown out the noise of Zack Snyder's Justice League. They've had articles prepped and ready to go to drop throughout this week to just stamp out any excitement for that film and just cement that they have their own plans going forward, which are fine. But I've got my own feelings on that. And I think once I kind of have some more time to settle, I might do like a live stream to talk about a lot of the things that they've announced and my feelings on that pesky Ann Sarnoff interview that everybody's already kind of chimed in on. I've been honestly kind of sitting in the background, kind of just collecting my thoughts and feelings on the whole thing because I don't want to just go out and go into a passionate like rant or anything like that. I do want to talk about it. I do want to address it. There's some hypocrisy in there, for sure. So it's something I do want to address. And I don't know if I want to make a video about it or do like a live stream so we can still kind of have like a little bit of interactivity about it. But keep an eye out. I'll be kind of putting something out there here in the next day or two. We'll see. But yeah. So that being said, I've been holding off on this. We did this with WandaVision. We will probably eventually do it at least once or twice with Falcon of the Winter Soldier once we get a little deeper into the thick of things. But we're going to head over to New Rockstars. So if you are not already subscribed to them, you should definitely be doing that because you're missing out on some great breakdowns. We're going to be watching Eric Voss's breakdown of all the Easter eggs and details we missed in Zack Snyder's Justice League. I did also want to give you guys an update, with the live stream, the revenue from the videos for the Snyder Cut reactions. I kind of tallied all that stuff up. We got some good turnaround on the weekend live stream that we did. And I even gave, just because these videos, they're going to stay on the platform for a while, but they've made their peak amount of views that they're going to get. So I've kind of rounded that number up by give or take like 25-50%. And we've raised $450 to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And I'm really proud of you guys. I'm really proud of that and the fan engagement because it's really the driving factor that helped get this movie noticed, get the movement heard by Warner Brothers to actually get this thing kind of moving ahead. Of course, they just wanted to get out and then hope they could sweep it away. But all they've really done at this point is poured gasoline on the fire because the people that wanted it, and now people who didn't even care or didn't even think they wanted it, are now also wanting to know where this storyline goes and if we'll ever find out. There's some talks that they might go down exploring Zack's vision and where it was going to go in maybe graphic novel formats. But man, I'd love to see it on HBO Max or something like that. Maybe give it a home there while the DCEU continues off on its own thing. They said they want a multiverse, so there's no reason that this can be canon just and separate. That's my thoughts. That's a little taste of what I want to talk about. But let's go ahead and pull this video up and dive in. Here we go.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of Zack Snyder's Justice League. While I explain this Snyder Cut's new ending and the other changes made from the theatrical cut and other videos, here I will be combing through this 4-hour director's cut for all the interesting details and Easter eggs that gave this Snyder Cut such a richer, deeper meaning. Superman's opening death cry blasts into the darkness to awaken the 3 mother boxes to alert Steppenwolf that Earth no longer has its Kryptonian defender. Actually, back in Batman v Superman, the alternate angle of this death blow with Doomsday included this subtle shockwave. One of many examples of how Zack Snyder's Justice League isn't just a recut on top of the 2017 version, but a true restoration of the artistic vision Snyder always intended. The shockwave blows past a Daily Planet newspaper with the headline reading, "Was Superman involved?" which we saw as a CNN headline in the aftermath of the Capitol bombing in Batman v Superman. And yes, by awakening these 3 mother boxes, Superman's death is very much involved. In Iceland, Arthur's exit is serenaded by this Icelandic folk song. I'm gonna pronounce this all wrong. Vísur Vansenda Rosu. I'm so sorry. It's a traditional Icelandic poem turned lullaby from the perspective of a woman saying goodbye to her dream man, kind of reflecting the way Arthur begins this movie as a total heartbreaker, refusing the call to pretty much everyone. Lois leaves the coffee shop, passing by
Zack.
a cameo by Zack Snyder himself, a very meta cameo since he said he was storyboarding this exact sequence during this moment, which I don't know how that's possible since it's already currently being shot. Whatever, there's a Daily Planet headline headline reading, Security Bank of Manhattan seeks new architect. Really? That's a front page headline? That a bank needs a new architect? All right, and this could be a nod to Green Lantern John Stewart, who began as an architect. Jerry, the Heroes Park cop, is a cameo by Mark McClure. Jimmy Olsen from the Donner Superman films. He played a Central City desk cop in the theatrical cut. And Steppenwolf arrives, his new design with metallic armor that opens and closes with independent shards, similar in a way to the techno-organic pieces of the Mother Box design. And his exchange with the Amazonians is fire.
Yes, it is.
You to the great darkness. I will bathe in your fear.
Daughters of Themyscira, show him your fear!
Fucking love this, man.
And we feel each and every heartbreak of the Amazonian sacrifices, building up to the whole freaking vault collapsing into the sea. Snyder re-rendered Steppenwolf's blow so that each of them spray blood. And then Vanellia's death now features bolts of Steppenwolf's axe
Coming
firing
through her skull.
face as the blade comes down. To warn Diana, they fire the arrow of Artemis, which gets its name from the Greek goddess Artemis, whom we actually saw fire the arrow that plunged into Darkseid's chest to keep him from acquiring the slain Green Lantern's ring.
God,
The arrow
could
of
you
Artemis
imagine?
was really the key to it all there. The sinking fishing boat is named the Courtland, a reference to the housing project in Ayn Rand's The Fountainhead, a controversial novel and a favorite of Zack Snyder's that he has been trying to adapt for years. Arthur chugs the liquor bottle and throws it into the sea. Remember, sea pollution was a big plot point in Aquaman. King Orm orders the Atlanteans to spew back all the litter onto the shores, but Arthur's move is justified by an added scene with Willem Dafoe as his mentor Volko begging him to take his mother's trident, all at the base of the statue of King Atlan, and Arthur says that he hates everyone in Atlantis anyway, so litter away, I guess. Upon setting up his stronghold, Steppenwolf promises to conquer Earth.
Oh, those eyes, man. Those puppy
This promise
eyes.
actually becomes his final spoken words in the final act of this film, right before Superman arrives and wrecks him.
For Darkseid.
Diana compliments Bruce's flying fox jet.
I once knew a man who would have loved to fly it.
A nod, of course, to her beloved pilot, Steve Trevor, who returned, well, sort of, via monkey paw logic in Wonder Woman 1984. Diana recounts the ancient war against Darkseid, and we get to see this. It includes the Greek gods of Zeus and Artemis and Ares. You actually see David Lewis's likeness returning from the first Wonder Woman. The Amazonians are led by Hippolyta and Robin Wright coming back as Antiope. The Atlanteans arrive via ship, and joining them is a Green Lantern. This kind of looks like Yellen Gur Green Lantern. And this opening shot shows Zeus handing Ares the battle axe that he will later use to deliver the final blow to Darkseid in Darkseid's right shoulder, the same shoulder Superman cuts into on Steppenwolf with his heat vision later. Barry Allen saves Iris West from a crash, including a Gardner Fox truck, a reference to Gardner Fox, comics writer and co-creator of The Flash. Barry later tells Bruce he feels lonely and needs friends, and this quiet moment with Iris reveals just how his super speed creates his barrier between him and the rest of the world. Actually, later after Bruce regrets
Without
they drive
saying
past
it.
the billboard reading "You are not
Like in
alone"
the Whedon cut.
with the AFSP website. It's
There we
such
go,
an important
guys. We
message
did it.
for anyone feeling like they're alone in their
Thank you guys
struggles.
so much
And
for
of course,
supporting that
reminder
cause.
of Snyder's late daughter Autumn, who was such an inspiration to Zack and Debbie Snyder as they worked on this recut. And in addition to the For Autumn message at the end, Cyborg also joins hands with this deeper theme against the Mother Boxes.
And I'm not alone.
Another added scene shows the parademons dragging Atlanteans out on a beach using a mechanized Starro to scan their thoughts. Steppenwolf also uses it again later in the tunnel before Cyborg eventually crushes it. Starro is a DC parasitic hive mind, confirmed to play a major role in James Gunn's Suicide Squad later this summer. Victor Stone's football game
can't wait for that
scoreboard
movie,
was
man.
sponsored by Wayne Enterprises. He is the star of this team, and in Batman v Superman, Gotham City University losing to Metropolis's team was a result of his absence. His number is 7, maybe a nod to the early marketing of Unite the Seven for this movie, 7 Justice League members, which this cut finally delivers by adding Martian Manhunter to the lineup. There's no Green Lantern yet, just 2 dead ones in this movie. In Victor's car accident
Another
with his
thing to
mother,
talk about.
the moment of the crash, notice how he reaches across to protect her with his left arm, and later when he awakens in his cyborg brain, the first thing he does is look at his left hand, which is no longer severed. And we also know from the football scene that from the hand he used to throw the ball is that this guy is left-handed. And this whole mental tour of his powers depicts a bull fighting a bear, representing a bull market versus a bear market, you know, an economy on the rise versus an economy in recession. I'm told hustled. I don't know economics, otherwise I wouldn't be hustling for views on YouTube. I love his view of everyone's personal wealth depicted in stacks of cash, and how most of them are moderate height, yet some are randomly sky high, because wealth is hilariously unevenly distributed. Something Bruce Wayne loves.
What are your superpowers again? I'm rich.
The waitress at Victor Helps is Linda Reed, a reference to the talented archer from the Green Arrow comics who commits a robbery for Big Bull Larson. Back in the apartment, there's a poster for Franz Kafka's Metamorphosis, a nod to the metamorphosis Victor has gone through, and the alienation he feels. And just a little design detail I love, his chest light beams through the zipper of his hoodie because there's little cracks of daylight there. Very cool. Barry talks to his father, Henry Allen, falsely in prison for killing Barry's mother, laying the groundwork for Barry going back in time to prevent his mother's murder in the Flash movie and in the Flashpoint Paradox is going to be based on. And the dialogue here also points in that direction.
I can't sit here and watch you run in place.
In the Flashpoint Paradox, Barry time travels by running on a souped-up treadmill to build up Speed Force.
Which was going to be in the next
Henry
movie.
Also says,
I want you to make your own future. You're living in the past.
Make your own future.
and Barry echoes these words later when he reverses time.
Make your own future.
In Barry's home, Rick and Morty plays on his screen in the background. The season 1 episode Something Wicked This Way Comes, which ends with Rick and Summer teaming up to kick the devil's ass, similar to the tag team beat down the Justice League gives Steppenwolf. There's also a picture of Nikola Tesla, the inventor and pioneer seeking to harness electrical energy in new groundbreaking ways, similar to the way Barry experiments with the
Wow.
Speed Force.
I
Barry
never
also
actually
says,
caught on. I didn't see that
sign
one.
language, gorilla sign language.
a nod,
Grodd.
of course, to the Flash villain, Gorilla Grodd. Pretty much anytime you hear Gorilla's reference in a DC movie, it's Gorilla Grodd, I guess.
Pretty
the
much.
Detective Commissioner Gordon is named Crispus. In the credits, Crispus Allen, who in the comics dies and becomes the host body of the character Spectre.
Oh,
An extended
shit.
Atlantis battle shows Mira communicating with other Atlantean outside air bubbles with squeaks and clicks like the ones used by dolphins and whales.
Yeah.
In which
That's
he
what I
fights
thought that
Steppenwolf. She
was.
uses her water-bending powers to suck the moisture and the blood out of Steppenwolf's body. So cool. Steppenwolf tells Desaad about the anti-life equation on Earth, calling it
The key to controlling all life and all will throughout the multiverse.
whoa now, multiverse implies that these apocalyptians know about the existence of alternate realities beyond this one. Another sign the DC
Darkseid
universe is
exists
branching further
beyond
outward into alternate timelines in this
multiverse.
coming Flash movie. And then Darkseid joins the chat and
In true
Steppenwolf's
form, at
armor
least.
retracts from his head in a sign of submission. Later, when Superman heat visions through his armor, it similarly retracts because this is precisely the moment Superman has him pinned. He's his daddy now. Victor tells him the history of the third mother box, item number 61982, a nod to Cyborg's introduction in DC Comics in June 1982. Martha meets with Lois, though really this is Martian Manhunter John John's in disguise, shifting eventually back into his normal alias of Swanwick, Harry Lennox. He tells Lois that the world needs her, recognizing her as the key to Superman's fate. Martian Manhunter, of course, also meets Bruce in the final scene. As they dig up Clark's corpse, Diana says to Arthur,
An Amazon working with an Atlantean. How many thousands of years since our people spoke?
the Amazonians and Atlanteans have historically hated each other, and in one of the Flashpoint futures, a war between these two societies ravages the Earth, leaving Europe flooded, something we might see in the Flash movie. Now, when
Nope,
they sneak
we
into
won't.
Star Labs, Barry's fake ID previously had a dumb error in the theatrical cut listing the birthday as November 6, 2010, meaning he would be like 7 years old. Here, Snyder fixed it so that it is September 30th, 1997, which would reflect Barry as like 20 years old. But before we continue, building your credit score is hard. Not as hard as climbing Mount Everest, but like way harder than sitting through all of the Snyder Cut of Justice League without a bathroom break. Well, Petal is stars. In the Kryptonian ship,
Here we are.
one cryopod remains open as it was when Clark found it in Man of Steel, a design detail that Snyder had added to suggest that some other Kryptonian could be on Earth somewhere, like Kara Zor-El, Supergirl. In Lois's drawer is a pregnancy test, and in the epilogue, she now carries a baby basket instead of a box, and Bruce tells Clark, congratulations. Snyder has confirmed that this baby would have been Clark's, and that some future
Yep.
scene would have involved young Bruce Kent being brought into the Batcave, setting set up as the next Batman. Victor
Correct.
sees a vision of
I'm
a
glad
dark future.
someone
The Unity
understands
completes,
that,
Earth
right?
is scorched. Darkseid sits atop his throne. Diana's body burns on a funeral pyre in the ruins of Themyscira overlooked by Darkseid. Coins are on her eyes. This is a tradition dating back to ancient Greece. The fair paid to Charon for the soul's delivery across the river Styx. Darkseid stabs Arthur with his own trident, and it is the three-pronged trident of Atlan, so this would be after Arthur takes
See,
the
I
throne
didn't
in the
notice that was
Aquaman
Arthur the
film.
first
And
time.
Darkseid also uses his Omega beams to kill other Atlanteans. Their corpse just kind of floating around there. Black suit Superman cradles the charred corpse, probably of Lois, and this is in the Batcave. You can see Robin's suit in the background there as Darkseid rests his hand on his shoulder to claim him, which is interesting. So he's not using the anti-life equation to control Superman's mind. Superman is turning on the Justice League with his own free will. And then we see the ruins of Wayne Manor after its conversion
not
to Hall
according
of
to
Justice.
Zack.
Superman hovers over it. He's holding a Batman mask that he tore off Bruce in the Batman v Superman Nightmare sequence. And among this rubble, a bunch of great Easter eggs. First off, the corpse of Green Lantern Kilowog, and then the portrait of Thomas Wayne, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who may show up as Thomas Wayne Batman.
Again,
Aquaman's
I'm pretty sure
trident
they're
and
not gonna go
shield,
that route.
Relics, since both of them are dead in this timeline. And then Joker's truce card torn in half, meaning the truce was broken here. So why is Victor seeing this? It's because right at this moment, Barry is using time reversal to sync his Speed Force with the Mother Box at the moment of the fluid contact. And right before that happened is when Cyborg is experiencing this vision, so technically right after it happened. In that precise moment, Barry altered the timeline, and that Cyborg is a part of that future history, thus why he witnesses it. Just like Bruce's vision in Batman v Superman, it happened as Barry again was altering the timeline by coming back too soon. So the rule is whenever Barry changes the past, those who are part of this future timeline experience an echo of the future as it is being rewritten in that moment. So when Clark resurrects, the first thing he sees
Someone else
is
thought it
his
too.
crest in black on the memorial. And during this fight, beside Barry on the memorial wall is the name Ben Parker, obviously from a different comics universe, but maybe it's a nod to the expression that no matter what in comics, the ones who stay dead are Bucky, Jason Todd, and Uncle Ben. But with Bucky, you know, that rule got broken anyway. Batman says
same
they
with
can track
Jason
the
Todd.
third Mother Box with his satellite.
You have a satellite?
I have 6.
Right.
Batman used to have 7 satellites, but during Superman's battle with Zod and Man of Steel up in orbit, they took down a Wayne Enterprises satellite, and it was these events that led to Superman's own fall, leaving it to Bruce once again to unite the 7. That's a bit of a stretch, but I think I got there. I mean, they could have said it was 4 satellites, you know. Superman revisits the Kryptonian ship, passing his red and blue suit, the Kryptonian armor worn by Zod, and then the Kryptonian outpost colonist suit, and he suits up in the black suit as a nod to the comics. This is his regeneration suit. The color black is better at absorbing solar energy, which is what gives Superman his super strength. This is why he immediately soaks in the sunlight up in Earth's orbit. Here we hear the voices of Jor-El and Pa Kent, these two father figures guiding their son to fly once more. Snyder composed all of this, even with Hans
whole
Zimmer's
thing was
theme as a
beautiful.
callback to that first flight in Man of Steel. And as Superman arrives in the fight against Steppenwolf, composer Junkie XL, who did amazing work rescoring this whole film, kicks in with this triumphant coda to the Man of Steel theme. Every hit Superman delivers on Steppenwolf releases a shockwave, echoing the shockwaves of his dying breaths in the opening scene. But missing his window,
Yeah,
Barry has to
shockwaves
use
of his
super speed to
resurrection this time,
reverse
man.
time once more. And I love how the crumbling terrain rematerializes
This is my favorite
with
scene in the
every
movie, I
step
think.
as he outruns the reverse destruction, conveying how it is his literal running that stitches the world back together. And we see the gross flesh of Superman and Cyborg rematerializing, and I specifically love that they do this for Victor to remind us of his remaining humanity that's still in his cyborg body. And it is that humanity that helps Victor see the Mother Box illusions as what they are. Sadly, you could say it is the fact that his father Silas is actually there that's the red flag, when in reality, you know, he was a no-show. And I love how the Mother Boxes are briefly shown as these white-haired demons, since, you know, they are not just tech. They were describing them earlier as living things. And with the Unity separated, the God-powered Justice League members deliver an amazing 1-2-3 fatality on Steppenwolf, with actually the 4th and final blow delivered by Darkseid. He's flanked by Desaad and Granny Goodness, who in the comics is the one who trains Darkseid soldiers. The epilogue is narrated by Silas Stone, the voice recording Victor previously smashed. I love how it encourages him to take his place as a hero, which in a way parallels Jor-El's recorded message to his son. Ryan Choi takes over Star Labs as the future DC hero, the Atom. Batman stands atop his War Machine tank from The Dark Knight Returns, and if you look closely at the shot, the mutant gang that that Batman pursued in that comic series is all tied up in headlights there. Lex Luthor escapes Arkham with its sign out front reading "Home for the Emotionally Troubled," which is the cynical name Frank Miller gave it in The Dark Knight Returns. It also says built in 1974, a nod to Arkham Asylum's first appearance in the comics in October 1974. Lex tells Deathstroke Batman's name is Bruce Wayne, which was meant to set up the Batman film when it was still going to be written and directed and starred in by Ben Affleck with Joe Manganiello as Deathstroke. Obviously, it's no longer the case with the Matt Reeves, Robert Pattinson Batman movie. That's basically a complete rewrite of that. But now, in this epilogue scene, Deathstroke joins Batman in this post-apocalyptic future, along with Cyborg, Armored Flash, and Mira, along with Jared Leto Joker. Joker wears a SWAT vest, much like he did when we last saw him at the end of Suicide Squad, covered with police badges worn like trophies of the cops he probably killed. He has no tattoos, but interesting scars across his face. We might be looking at an alternate timeline version of the Joker, because he does ask Bruce, how many alternate timelines do you destroy the world because you don't have the cojones to die yourself? During this, Joker taunts Batman about killing Robin, and notice how Snyder lets Joker grow more and more out of focus as Batman's just staring more at that card and trying to ignore Joker's teasing until the moment Joker crosses the line to snap him into focus.
Like, why you sent a boy wonder to do a man's job?
Now, Joker's truce card is actually the same Joker design as the Joker card that appeared in Batman #1, going way, way, way back there. This is a sign of the truce between them to never bring up this bad blood, because if they do, they're gonna start fighting. This explains why Batman had that Joker card taped to his gun in Batman v Superman, and that card being torn in Vic's vision tells us that in at least one of these futures, Batman says, screw it, he tears the card, he lets Joker cackle on about killing Robin, and then beats the Joker to death. But that would be mission failure for Batman. He can't do that. He needs Joker to change his mind in the past, to spare Lois and prevent her horrific death in the Batcave, prevent Superman from turning on Batman and the Justice League, and helping Darkseid conquer Earth. And after many, many failures, it sounds like Batman has finally found Joker's key, Harley Quinn. Because notice, right as Batman brings up Harley, Joker suddenly looks stunned. He even trembles before he says,
You're good. You almost had me.
So while this timeline may have hit a dead end with Superman's arrival, Batman, Barry, and the others now might have a new tactic on their next timeline reset to find Harley Quinn, Joker's love, and to use her as leverage to stop this madman from letting the world burn. And after Bruce meets Martian Manhunter, Snyder fades to black on For Autumn as a cover of Leonard Cohen's Alleluia plays. He said this was his late daughter Autumn's favorite song, and this is a song whose lyrics tell the story of a heartbroken artist just struggling to find meaning in the rote chanting of a church hymn, a struggle that Zack Snyder could certainly relate with as he completed this project that was so close to his heart. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EABoss, follow New Rockstars, subscribe to New Rockstars for more breakdowns.
Please subscribe to New Rockstars if you have not. So yeah, a couple things I did want to kind of mention, and it's not easy to figure it all out, at least because there's just interviews all over the place. I know it's not explained in the movie, and a lot of people were like, oh well, Lois died, so now he just decides to join Darkseid. That's not the case. Lois is the key in the fact that it weakens Superman's mental state enough that his grief overpowers him, and now that Darkseid is on Earth, he has got the anti-life equation, and according to Zack, in that moment is when Darkseid forces him to succumb to anti-life. Now he would still have his own consciousness, his own memories, but his will would be turned towards Darkseid. So that's why he, can talk to Bruce. He recognizes him and he does that all that stuff, but like he's under the influence of Darkseid in that grief. It just bends him to his will, and there's like a subtle resolve in that hand when he's placing it on Henry Cavill's shoulder, and when you see it take over in his eyes. And I really like that touch in it. Again, this is stuff that just was going to be set up later and explained, and this is from Zack himself saying that it's anti-life that is what's happening to Superman. So that is Zack's words, I promise you. It's not he's sad, he just decides to betray everybody, Lois, the memory, Earth, because of that. It's just the stepping stone that weakens him enough to become susceptible to anti-life, because there is some level of resistance for really strong-willed beings to put up a resistance, but it's that grief, that loss that weakens him and his mind, his emotions, his stability enough for Darkseid to get his tentacles into his brain. And I like that about it. So we know a lot about what was going to happen, at least because Snyder keeps kind of opening up about certain things. He doesn't go into huge details because I think he's still kind of holding out hope that they're going to explore it in some way. He did mention that they have been talking about possibly exploring the future outcome of his films, what they would have done through graphic novels. They're having some conversations right now, but everything else is still kind of on the fence because who knows what HBO Max might do, who knows what AT&T might decide to do with this. There's some performance numbers that we can talk about that I'm not going to go into in this video. Maybe it'll be like that stream I talked about in the beginning, something we talk about there. But yeah, I like that because like Eric even caught in something I talked about when I was watching the Real Rejects live stream when they were breaking down the whole thing Saturday, because everybody was live streaming like at the same time Saturday. I was on, Rejects was on, I think Kevin Smith was even on live talking about it. There's a couple other YouTubers on live all at the same time. I wrapped mine up kind of early so I could go watch Real Rejects because they had been going on for like four hours straight, just live chatting, talking about the movie, just as long as the movie itself. And one thing that I pointed out is because we know the future already happened. Because in BVS, Flash travels back in time and says, I'm too early. And thus the message isn't conveyed correctly. And they think the Lois is the key just to getting Superman, at least in the theatrical way they reworked it in the theatrical cut. They did explain it a little bit differently here. They haven't figured out exactly what that means yet. So the key to Superman's humanity, which still remains true. Like that still holds true because once she's gone, he loses that love, that hope to grief, which allows Darkseid to take root in his mind with anti-life. But we see that Bruce is having these memories. We see that Flash has already made one attempt to reset this. And if you pair that with the Joker's lines in this movie, I wonder how many alternate timelines were destroyed because you didn't have the cojones to die yourself. So how many times have they tried this already? This could be multiple loops that they've made attempts and failed. And anytime the Flash changes things, as Eric mentioned, it's a major part of Flashpoint and a lot of what Flash himself does whenever he meddles with time. Those that played key roles in those changes before the future permanently takes root, they will remember things. The Speedster usually will always maintain their memory after the change of the previous timeline that existed. So Future Barry would automatically know that his attempt failed once it came through because he would have the memories of the new timeline, the old timeline, and all of that. Everybody else would have like remnants of the old timelines, and that would manifest in some cases through dreams. So we have these nightmare dreams that Bruce keeps having, and I think those are maybe not necessarily of a future that is in their future, in their timeline. It may already play out differently because they already have some of these pieces, and maybe it's just slightly different each time until they finally work their way to the one that allows them to win. But we know that at least they tried it at least once so far, and that attempt failed because we saw Flash in BVS. He was too early. He didn't get it across. And Bruce is still trying to figure out what that message meant in this. He was like, I don't know. I think it means something darker. And they didn't figure that out. You know, maybe if Cyborg mentioned what he saw as far as that vision goes, because I don't know how, because the Kryptonian ship is warning him about this, and then it says the future is taking root. And then he has this glimpse, and I'm wondering if in that moment, because he's hooked up there and he's using his subconscious to activate the ship and access the ship and using his powers or whatever, it awakens his own past realizations of the timeline that no longer is, the future that no longer is, or the future that is coming because things haven't changed. They're still running into that course, and I'm wondering if those are his memories from that timeline coming through as well. Because I don't know how the Kryptonian ship would actually show him that. Because I think that's the only way that explains the nightmare dreams that everybody gets is the meddling with time. Because we also know that in this movie itself, Flash has to break his rule and rewinds time. And even if it's just a little change, even if it's rewinding or completely jumping to a completely separate point, changes in time always create ripples. And that's something that has always been fairly consistent with anytime the Flash messes with time. So there's going to be some consequences to that. And I like that. There's so many great touches into this. And Zach, I know a lot of things get really confusing, get really lost in the mix of things. And I think what this version of the movie proves with BVS, a lot of the things we were like really puzzled by and kind of confused by, we weren't really meant to grasp yet. And that confuses general audiences at times. We want things explained in the now and the why. And at the end of the day, you'll have people wondering, what the hell was that about? And then if, the next movie doesn't happen, we won't get that explanation. I think Anti-Life is that way in this. There's a couple things in here that I think were seeded that were going to be explained in further detail later. And like with BVS, like with the scene with Lois, I think, honestly, I think this movie also pays off since Wonder Woman is re-examining the footage that was found in BVS, actually makes those even more relevant to be included in that, while before it may have seemed just kind of tacked on and forced, and it still might be. I definitely understand it for some people, but I think this movie in context, Zack was always thinking 2 to 3 steps down the line when he's seeding these things in, and Warner Brothers wasn't confident in this storyline to allow things to play out. And even a lot of general audiences and a lot of people who saw these movies weren't willing to wait for the next movie to figure those things out. It's just the way his style is, and it's something I've had to learn. And like after seeing the connective tissue and also hearing his plans and how him explaining what these things were going to be, what his intentions were, it's honestly just reframed a lot of my viewing of the previous films. And while I still have, like I said, my issues with BVS's Man of Steel, I still really enjoy those 2 movies, and I enjoy them even more now with this. Man of Steel was my favorite DCEU film, and it has easily been outranked by this. This is my favorite DCEU film right now as it stands, and I love it. And I'm just in this really melancholic state with how Warner Brothers is treating this whole thing. So that's why I'm trying to hold off on saying anything about how I feel about what's going on, whether everything's been announced this week, the way they've been handling it, because I don't want to just like go out there on an attack or anything like that, because whether I let it show, my emotions can get the best of me sometimes. But that's about all I got to say for this. Thank you so much, Eric, for putting this video together. Again, guys, if you're not subscribed to New Rockstars, go check them out. Thank you guys so much for your support in everything that we did through the live stream and the videos themselves. We raised a healthy chunk of money that we were able to give to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention in honor of Autumn, Zack, and this movement. Now we just gotta stay strong, and hopefully maybe we can restore the Snyderverse. If DC says that there's a multiverse, there's no reason this can't exist in its own canon, in its own pocket, unaffecting their plans. It can coexist. They just don't seem to care or want to continue it, which again is one of the hypocrisies we'll talk about later. But yeah, sound off in the comments. Let me know your thoughts down below, and we'll carry on conversation after the video. Huge shout out to Mandy Sherrod, who is a legend of the channel, and everybody else who's been supporting the channel on the Patreon and the comics, liking the videos, and just hanging out in the Discord. You guys are always great, and you guys keep me going, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care, everybody.